Welcome to the Pivot Experience podcast, where leadership transformation isn't just a concept, it's a journey we take together. This is where real leaders share real stories about the moments that changed everything. In each episode, we dive deep into the pivotal experiences that transformed good leaders into great ones. Whether you're a seasoned executive, a rising star in your organization, or someone ready to take that next big step in your leadership journey, you're in the right place. Get ready to learn, grow, and maybe even find that spark that ignites your own leadership pivot. This is the Pivot Experience podcast, where your next breakthrough starts here.
Hey guys, what's up? It's your friend, Pastor John R. Adolph from the Antioch Church in Beaumont, Texas. Hey, listen, do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe this channel so you can continue to pivot into your next.
What's up and what's happening, TPE family? We're back with another episode of the Pivot Experience podcast, where our aim and goal is to help leaders pivot into their next. As you guys know, I love connecting with brilliant and bright minds out there that specifically dominate in the area of leadership development and entrepreneurship. And on today's episode, it is no different. I've been fortunate enough to not have a shortage of guests that want to come on the show. And on today's show, we have a gentleman by the name of Marcelo Calbucci. Marcelo Calbucci is the author of the PRFAQ Framework that essentially, in my mind, helps you go from idea to reality. And so this is a framework that I'm very interested in learning from Marcelo. I'm so glad that he reached out to us to have the opportunity to come on the show. And so, Marcelo, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm great, Alex. Thank you so much for having me here.
Of course. And so before we go into talking about what the PRFAQ framework is, tell the audience, who are you? What did you do previous to your work here with this framework? And how did you get to the point in which you are today?
Sure. I was born in Brazil. I always been fascinated by technology and software since I was a teenager. I went to college to study computer science. Shortly after that, Microsoft hired me in Brazil and brought me to the US. So I moved to Seattle, spent 7 years working at Microsoft, most of that time on the Bing search engine. Then I left and I became a founder. For 18 years, I founded and ran many startups. Then I joined the biggest startup of them all, Amazon. So I spent a couple years at Amazon, and in there I learned about the PRFAQ, which was invented by Amazon, and I was fascinated how it could help other founders and other product leaders and innovators everywhere. So when I left Amazon, I was like, let me write a book about this so more people can know and use what Amazon has used over the last 20 years to decide what to build and how to build.
So I love that you've always been interested in tech, and you kind of went all the way in working for some of the biggest giants in the world, Microsoft, Amazon. So what's kept you motivated in staying in tech?
It's really the innovation and the impact for users and customers. You know, like when you build something with software and people say like, oh, this helped me do a job faster, or like I have more time to do this other thing with my family, or like I was able to exercise and become healthier. Whatever you do, like that has that kind of impact is very motivational.
No, I can't agree with you more. I kind of, if you know me, if anybody that's listening, my audience, some of them that know me personally, they know I'm huge into tech. They know I've got to have the new MacBook, or I've got to get, updated. I understand the impact that technology has on our day-to-day lives and how it creates a more efficient workflow for us. And ultimately, then you can forward more time to the things that you want to do. So, I am very curious about this PRFAQ framework because I've never heard of it before. I know you mentioned
Yeah.
that you've got it from Amazon. So walk us through what that framework is and how can one use it to their benefit.
That sounds great. Let's start from what it is, right? PRFAQ stands for Press Release and Frequently Asked Questions. However, it's not a marketing tool. It's an innovation tool, right? It's not a press release you're going to send to the press. It's a press release that you use to paint a vision of the future that you want to exist. And then you work backward from that vision to define the strategy and what you need to do to get there. So that composes the PRFAQ. And it's usually, not usually, but like used for you to define a new business, a new product, a new service, a new project that you want to do. And you want to think it about it. You want to have clarity on like, what do you know, what you don't know, what problem are you solving, what is the solution, like how we're going to reach our customers. So it forces you to write all this down in a document. And when you write it down, not only you think more critically, but you have an opportunity to share with other people to gather feedback, right? That could be your peers, your stakeholders, friends, like anyone that can provide you some angle on that and say like, wait a second, this is not going to work, or this is not exactly true, or like, have you considered this? So we incorporate that into the framework. You know, most people like they are doers. They want to get out there and build things and do things. The PRFAQ tells you to like pause for a second, write your idea, you know, spend a couple weeks, think through it, reviewing with friends, and then if you still like got the conviction, go and do it, right? So in big companies, it's very valuable to align teams as well. You can't just like go do an idea without having everyone with you on that journey. So the document helps with that.
Outside of Amazon, where have you seen this framework be successful?
Well, there wasn't a book about it, so I just wrote a book. Now we're going to see more and more places using the PRFAQ, but there has been some startups and some ex-Amazonians that continue to use this framework. It's really hard because it's not a framework that you use in isolation. Like you want people involved, right? You want to use to collaborate. So it's not only you that needs to learn, it's like everyone else that's going to be around you that needs to kind of learn as well how to do this well.
Okay. And so I would imagine, so is the PRFAQ framework, is it owned by one individual in the beginning, or how, if I am working with a team, do I develop the draft of this initial view of it and bring it to the team, or is this a living document where I'm incorporating people into this in the very beginning?
That's a super important question. You're going to have a leader that's going to own this from beginning to end. And owning from beginning to end means they're going to write the first draft, then they're going to conduct the reviews, and they are the ones updating the document, right? Because you're going to find conflicting feedback, right? Some person is going to say like, we should do this, and the other person is going to say we should do that. So you need the project leader to say like, I heard both sides, and I decided this is the choice that we're going to make here. One thing that is important about the PRFAQ is that it's only about vision and strategy. It's not about the tactics and the features and the details and the branding and the screens and whatever project you're doing, right? You can leave that for later. It's just so you understand the vision and strategy, so you build the confidence that, yes, this is something we should pursue. Once you decide that, yes, this is something you should pursue, then you go ahead and do all the other stuff with wireframes and mocks and branding and planning and like roadmaps and feature lists and everything else.
So this idea was compelling enough for you to write a book. How long was that process for you?
In total, it took about 6 months to write a book. I would say a couple months of research, a month to write the first edition of the book, and another 3 months or so of like editing and revisions, right? That is usually the longest aspect. Just like a PRFAQ, right? Like you're going to write, and it might take a day or two for you to write, but then it's going to take a week or two for you to review and edit to a point where you feel comfortable.
Okay, and I guess, have you had any feedback from the people who have had your book in terms of how it's changed the trajectory of a particular product or service or their company as a whole?
Well, so the PRFAQ is a long-term document, right? So you write the strategy. Let's say that you decide to start a new podcast, right? And like, I believe there is a new market for me to create a new podcast. Well, before you just start, like write a little bit about it. Like write like, who is the listener of this new podcast? What problem are you trying to solve? What are you going to bring to the table that they can't get anywhere else, right? How they're going to find your podcast? These are important questions for any type of business. You want to understand the problem, the solution, and how the customers are going to find that solution. Like you can't live without these three aspects. And the PRFAQ forces you to think like that. So the impact that you see of the PRFAQ is going to be 6 12, 18 months down the road, right? Because you started a project with more clarity and a better understanding of where you should go. So the book came out in January. I know lots of folks who have started to adopt this. I don't expect to get a lot of feedback about people starting with the PRFAQ now until 6 months, 9 months, or 12 months from now.
Okay, so I respect that, and that totally makes sense. And my question is not really the most applicable because it hadn't had the most time to take effect into organizations. But it's so. Correct me if I'm wrong. You've launched out as an entrepreneur 100% of the time, and you've been doing this for almost just over a year now.
Oh no, the book launched 2 months ago.
Oh, 2 months ago. Okay, I might be reading that a little bit long because I'm looking at your bio and it says you've been the
Yeah.
author and
Well, I
founder of this
started
for.
the book. Yeah, I started the book last year, right? So it was February, March of last year, March of last year when I started the book, really.
Okay.
So it has been 12 months since then. And the book was ready in November, but it only came out in January.
Got it. Got it. What are some of the most valuable lessons that you've learned since taking on this endeavor of being an entrepreneur? Because like I said, we talked before we started recording, like, who is my audience? And a lot of these guys are
Yeah,
leaders and they're entrepreneurs. And like, I think the function of your manuscript and your framework will help them a whole lot. But I will also be
yeah.
interested to know what are some of those hurdles that you went up against in thinking about going out and on your own and becoming your own businessman.
Yeah, the biggest lesson that I tell any entrepreneur or anyone working at a big company or anything that you're doing professionally is really understand your customer and what they are trying to do, right? At a really deep level, right? So you can think about Ford, and when he invented the Model T car, at the time was like a bunch of people working, riding horses. Like, he didn't go there and try to understand, how horses could be better. He understood that their customers was trying to get from point A to point B. And then he invented a solution for that. So whatever you're doing, really understand what your customers are trying to do, like what they are using your product for, or service, or what problems they have that no one has addressed yet, and like how can you address in a way that satisfies their needs. So like that customer obsession is so important to be successful as an entrepreneur, no matter what product you do.
So, how did you go about researching the particular customer or the person who you are writing your book for? I think you said something very important. A lot of us want to get into business, but we don't understand what it takes to identify who our customer is, to identify, what direction that we're going in. What are some of the methods that you
Mm-hmm.
use to identify who your customer was?
So not surprising, I wrote a PRFAQ about my book to say, like, who is my book for? What problem are these people trying to solve? How are they solving it today? And when I started, I really thought that I was writing a book for founders, particularly startup founders. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to write a book about PRFAQ for startup founders. So I started writing a PRFAQ on that topic, and I realized, wait a second, there is not that many startup founders out there. But there is a lot of product managers or product managers out there. So like, let me incorporate those in my thinking as well. And then as I was writing, I realized, wait a second, it doesn't matter who they are. It matters what they are trying to do. And what I'm helping them to do is to think through innovation. So really, my customers are innovators, anyone making any change in anything, right? And then when I realized that, I went out there, I went through my LinkedIn, and I found, like, who are the people that I want to talk to? And I reached out to more than 100 people. And so, like, hey, do you have like 30 minutes? I'm happy to provide you some feedback on a product or idea that you have. I want to ask you some questions. And I was asking questions about, like, hey, do you write your ideas when do you have a collection of ideas? How do you expand your ideas? How do you think about customers? So I was asking these questions and collecting notes. And that's how I did my basic research for the book, right? So talking with lots of people. Of course, I read a lot of books, listened to a lot of podcasts, read articles, but like this, talking with the real customers, the people that I assume would buy my book, that I call the innovators, are the ones that I really wanted to talk to.
So I want to take a moment to applaud you for that hard hand to hand, person to person research, because that is lost amongst a lot of entrepreneurs and people who want to be founders. Like you taking out I'm going to make the list. I'm going to go through the research. I'm going to find the people who and then engage in conversation with them. A lot of times I feel like entrepreneurs just think it's also just fall in their lap. Like, hey, I opened up shop today, you should just want to do business with me. And that's not the case. And so I
Yeah.
love the fact that,
No.
I don't want to say it's an old school approach, but it's like hey, let me talk to real people about real stuff and really get a gauge of what the market is looking for. And am I even in the right ballpark? And you said something else that really stuck out to me too. You started writing a book thinking you were writing a book for founders, then realized that said, hey, they may not be the target audience. And then had another revelation to say, well, wait a minute. I'm writing a book for whoever wants to do something. If you're an inventor at any level, founder or corporation, apart from all of that, this is for you. And so a lot of times, and I want the audience to hear this, your original thought in approaching any endeavor, you might have one audience in mind, but as you're going through it, you might realize that your purpose is larger than what that initial audience was. So don't get discouraged by that. Don't get
Yes.
don't get lost in the fact that, hey, I might not be writing this book for just the person that I thought, but hey, I'm going to impact more people once I get better clarity on what it is that I'm wanting to do. One thing that I want to
Yeah.
kind of touch on a little bit is just your history, man. Working for Microsoft, working for Amazon. I know from Amazon you picked up the PRFAQ. What are some things that you can recall from working in both of those industries that you still bring into your leadership and your entrepreneurship today? I'm sure there has to be something from Microsoft or something else from Amazon that you incorporate into your current leadership and entrepreneurship today. What are some of those things?
Yeah, I think one of the things that people don't realize that make big companies is that they think big, right? They might even start small, but they think big. They always think like, how can we get this to 1 million users, 10 million users, 100 million users, 1 billion users? So you can start small. You can start like, we're only going to do a product for 1 million users right now. Of course, it's small for a big company, not for a startup. 1 million is already big for a startup. But like when you think really big, but you start the execution small, is the sweet spot, right? Because if you start your execution too big, you might collapse. And if you start your execution too small without thinking big, you might create a niche for yourself that doesn't allow you to expand beyond what you were thinking originally. And it's totally fine to have like a big dream, a big vision, but always start like from delivering for a very specific customer segment.
No, I love that. So I guess, and not to put you on the spot, and I don't know if you want to say this. So what is that thinking big for you in the current role that you're at with PRFAQ? Like, what's that big thought that you have? Like, what's that BHAG? What in my world we call it big, hairy, audacious goals, right? So what's that
Yes. Yeah.
big thought for you? What is that for you?
Yeah, I'd love to see the PRFAQ be adopted by lots of organizations around the world. The same way organizations have adopted many other frameworks like objective and key results, OKR, or have adopted, sprints and agile processes for technology management. Like, I would love to see them adopting PRFAQ as well.
No, I love that, and we're believing that they're going to do that. So I've got to get in on the book on this, and so I've got a segment now. Before we close, I've got a segment that I would like to do with you, where I'm going to give you two words that I'm going to force you to pick one or the other. Okay, and so you're going to have
Okay.
to explain to me why you picked this word. And it's no right or wrong answer here. This is just up to
Okay.
you. All right.
All right.
So first set of words is empathy or accountability.
Empathy.
Why empathy?
Empathy is a superpower for innovators. Like when you can empathize with your customers, you can create products for them and services for them that people that don't have empathy cannot.
I love the way you answered that. That's awesome. All right,
That was
next one.
easy.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think this one's going to be easy too. I think this one, given our
Okay.
conversation, I think this is going to be very easy. Innovation or consistency?
Ooh, now this is tough. This is not easy. I love consistency. I'm gonna pick consistency on this one.
Wow.
You
I thought
know,
you would have went
I
the other way on that one. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Innovation is one way to do things. You can still optimize things, improve things, but I think consistency is the key for everything in life. If you want to get smarter, read one page a day. If you want to get healthier, like eat a better meal every day. And like everything you want to achieve in life, you can do through consistency.
I love that. All right. Clear expectations or freedom?
Clear expectations.
Okay.
I think it's when when you live with people, when you have relationships, when you work with people, there's a certain expectations that if you meet, they're going to respect you, they're going to trust you, they're going to find you dependable, and vice versa. So I think that's very important.
Okay. And here's your last set. Results or relationships?
Ooh, that's another hard one. I would say relationships. Even though my brain say results, my heart say relationships.
No, that's right. No, and why?
Because the world is about people. Like whatever you build, whatever you do, it's always about interpersonal connections. And I think relationships are very important. They are not easy, but it's very important.
No, I love that. And now we're on to final thoughts. If I was someone who never met you, never understood what the idea of PRFAQ is, what would you tell them? How would you convince me that this is the framework that I need to implement into my business?
Yeah, the PRFQ is a framework for anyone trying to invent or change anything in their business. And they need to think about a vision and a strategy, and then have an opportunity to discover, debate, and decide with their peers.
Oh, I love that. So, how do we go about ordering your book? How do we all go about getting connected with you if we wanted to continue to learn about this framework?
Yeah, the easiest place is the book website. It has all my contact information and how you can buy the book, and also my newsletter with lots of resources for people to download for free. You go to Google and search for PRFAQ book, and you're gonna find my website there. Click on the link, and then you can see all the content there.
Well, there you guys have it. TPE family, hopefully that you guys have become more enlightened around this process called PRFAQ. We all know who and what Amazon is. And if this is something that they use to scale their business, I don't see how we're above using what one of the biggest companies in the world use to help their business. Thank you so much for bringing this idea and concept to the world, Marcelo. Hopefully you have a wonderful day. And again, you find and buy this book by going to Google, typing in PRFAQ book, and you'll find the website. Free resources, a lot of good content there. Hopefully, we can help Marcelo with his vision of getting more and more people to adopt what this concept and framework is. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, TPE family. And until next time, peace.
Hey guys, what's up? It's your friend, Pastor John R. Adolph from the Antioch Church in Beaumont, Texas. And I just want to slip this in right quick so you'll never forget. It's all about progress over perfection here at TPE.
Tap into the Pivot Experience where we help young, hungry entrepreneurs move on to the next step.